Moved by Dr. Yarnell, seconded by Mr. Kraus. Questions or comments from board members? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. Second item, as it is typically on our agenda, it has to do with contracts. And there are contracts for an attorney firm, contract for the Pennridge Food Service Director Agreement, and a Music Theater International. I move that we accept those three contracts and approve them.
Okay, motion moved by Dr. Yarnell. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Mrs. Kildare. Questions or comments from board members? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is the acceptance of an award of public bids. Those include a brake parts bid, an engine transmission parts bid, vehicle batteries bids, and the BCIU 22 tire bid. And I move that we accept and approve those 4 bids.
Second.
Okay, motion moved by Dr. Yarnell, seconded by Mr. Kraus. Questions or comments from board members? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. Lastly, I would like to move that we approve the budget. This is the proposed final budget, not the final budget. That will be hopefully approved on December, yes, of course. In June, on the 18th, when the next full board meeting is made. So we do have that tonight, and if I can pull up the right computer information, I will read what the motion should be. All right, that's not going to work, yes, please.
I have razors.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Cullen. The motion reads to approve the 2018-2019 general fund proposed final budget as presented on the form PDE 2028. That's what's required by the state. Revenues are $137,533,944. Expenditures are $138,271,842. To balance the budget, this requires a commitment of $717,898 from fund balance for the 2018-29 fiscal year. We also set the tax rate at 135.2555, which is unchanged from the 2017-2018 school year. And I make that in the form of a motion.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by Dr. Yarnell, seconded by Mr. Kraus. Questions or comments from board members?
I have several comments. I want to note that the budget does require the use of fund balance. That is not my favorite thing to do. I believe that that creates a structural deficit, and this is another year of that. It's unfortunate in many ways, but it is a relatively small amount, and I'm hopeful that it will actually recede somewhat by the time we get to June 19th. I also want to note that this is another year without a tax increase. That certainly should benefit our residents and make it easier for them to pay the taxes that support this school district. I want to thank the administration, particularly obviously Mr. Dalbert and Dr. Radigan, for bringing us a budget that the board can and hopefully will live with. I look forward to its approval tonight, at least in its proposed final form. I want to thank board members for coming together to support the budget as is proposed. At the last Finance Committee meeting, although we only had 5 members attend, the members who were there all felt that they could support the motion that is on the agenda tonight. Beyond that, I do want to note that we will have another budget hearing, Finance Committee meeting on June the 6th, and that presumably will be the last one before the final budget is approved on June the 18th. What that does is it allows us to go forward to give the tax collectors the information that they need in order to get the tax bills out to the residents of the community in a timely fashion. And that hopefully helps everyone because it gives everyone more time to determine when and how they want to pay their taxes. So I'm looking forward to approval of this budget tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, we're going to do this as a roll call vote.
Mrs. Vance Clements?
Yes.
Mrs. Cullen?
Yes.
Mrs. Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Kildare?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Yardley?
Yes.
Dr. Yarnell?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
The next Finance Committee meeting is, as I mentioned, going to be held on June 6, 2018, and that will include a comments or questions on the budget as it stands, and presumably an update from Mr. Daubert. I assume that there will be at least some changes. In the meantime, the budget will be posted. It is up for at least 30 days, which is why these meetings are spread the amount that they are for public comment. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yarnell. Okay, the next committee report is the IU. Mrs. Miller?
Actually, the IU is meeting tonight. I chose to be here since I made it on the agenda. I would like to note that graduation is coming, and this is a very inspiring event. I'm looking forward to attending as usual. It's one of my favorite days. And I'd also like to thank the IU for allowing me to serve as your vice president and president, and I will miss the IU more than anything, so thank you very much. The next meeting is in June. Thank you.
Okay, the next report is personnel. Mrs. Cullen?
Thank you, Mrs. Bates Clemens. And as you noted earlier, the first item on the personnel agenda is a motion to approve a 5-year contract for Dr. David A. Bolton to serve as superintendent of the Pennridge School District effective August 1st, 2018.
Thank you. Motion moved by Mrs. Cullen. I'll second this one. Seconded by Mrs. Vance Clemens. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, questions or comments from board members?
I have a comment. I guess when you pay an expensive attorney, you get an expensive contract. Dr. Bolton, I am thrilled you're coming to Pennridge. Don't misunderstand me. But I'm very concerned about the contents of this, the terms of your agreement. 17 school districts, or school entities, that includes 13 school districts across Bucks County, 3 technical schools, and the Bucks County IU was surveyed for their top administrator's salary. The average was $172,000. This is a 16% increase that we are offering Dr. Bolton. This is a year that we are in the middle of contract negotiations. As our community reminds us frequently, our enrollment is declining. I'm very concerned. I feel it's like this is fiscally irresponsible. Again, this is a 16% increase. Our budget, our current superintendent ranks 8th of these 17 entities. Our budget ranks 8th in these 17 entities, but our new superintendent is ranking in the top 3. This concerns me again fiscally, especially in light of what's going on with no tax increase, and believe me, I am thrilled with no tax increase. But I am concerned we're pulling $700,000 from our fund balance, and to me that is alarming. So when I vote no, Mrs. Cron, I would like you to note in the minutes I am voting against the terms of the agreement and not against Dr. Bolton. Thank you.
I have a comment. So as Mrs. Bates Clemens said, sort of, I think she touched on it in her remarks, but I just wanted to note some things that have me very excited about Dr. Bolton coming to Central Bucks. In his interview, and I asked him if I could share this beforehand, but he talked about music and the arts, and that's something that's very important to me. And so to hear somebody pull that out and present it as an item that is something he's interested in. Made me think that there's more to him than just maybe the typical facts and figures and what you would consider the normal education components in a school, because I believe that schools can offer a lot to students, and the arts and music, those are some things that we can offer kids that I think are very valuable. And his depth and breadth of experience on all levels, it's not very common, and it's very valuable. Elementary, middle, high school, administrative, teaching. I thought that that was exceptional that he had so much experience that way. And the last thing I'll say is that it was really hard to keep it a secret. And we had people, after the announcement was made, every comment that I've heard, without exception, is about how great you are. Many people from Central Bucks that I know have expressed, a little bit of displeasure that we stole you away, but I've also heard from people who teach in Central Bucks but live in Pennridge and are very, very excited about you being the new superintendent, so thank you.
Other questions or comments from board members?
I have a comment. So since the December 4th board meeting, this board has been split. We've disagreed on contracts, we've disagreed on books, we've disagreed on process, we've disagreed on walkouts, and we've disagreed on the role of the board. But the one thing that we all do agree on is Dr. Bolton. So I just want to express my support for Dr. Bolton, and I would just like to say that, just through the interview process and just the whole application process and getting to know him, I find that he is first and foremost an educator, that he will put children first. He has insightful analytical abilities. He has a great financial sense. He shows a great work ethic. He has great attention to detail. He has experience in building consensus. He has a uncanny ability to read people, and he also has a great sense of humor. So I am very happy for Pennridge that he is coming here, and I just wanted to express my support, and I hope that the whole community can get behind Dr. Bolton and welcome him.
Other questions or comments?
I second what Mrs. Yardley said.
Okay. I have a comment. Most of you who know me know that I'm very on top of the costs of things, pretty much everything. So for me to be supporting this contract, I think it's important. I think that he's the best choice for Pennridge. And I also think if you're hiring a quarterback, and you have a choice between hiring the least expensive quarterback or the best quarterback, which do you think is going to make your team more successful and make your team and make your city more money? That's kind of how I equate this. I think that we're making the right choice. I think we got the right person. And we all had a meeting and we all discussed the numbers, and this was what everyone agreed to in that meeting. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Madam President, may I have the floor for a second? Sure. I think it's appropriate to point out, and I do that there's some risk to Dr. Bolton personally, since he's sitting next to his wife, that he's made a commitment to this district which occasioned him to give up over 100 sick days that he would have been compensated for in his prior district. Now, Dr. Bolton, you would be advised to move at least a seat away from your wife, as I point out that there was some real value to that. And for you to give that up in exchange for the opportunity to come to work for Pennridge says something, it seems to me, and in my discussions with your counsel, Mr. Kaur, and with the Dr. Huffman from the IU, with members of the board last time we were together by phone, it's very clear that both sides had to provide some give and some take in reaching an agreement on your terms and conditions of employment. So I think it's important for the community to know that Dr. Bolton walked away from a fair amount of compensation because he must believe that this is the right job for him. And I think that it's important to note in the record that he has made that commitment to Pennridge. And although I'm sure that his wife may talk to him about the sacrifice he's made economically, there is a give and take in this process, which we can't detail point by point, but there is a process. And it did involve the board, it did involve the IU, it did involve Dr. Hoffman, and everyone had the chance to weigh in on it. So I think it's important for the community to know that.
I
Thank
stand
you.
by my
Thank you, Mr.
concern.
Miller.
Thank you.
Okay, should we do a roll call for this? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Dr. Yarnell.
Yes.
Mrs. Yardley.
Yes.
Mrs. Walters.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Nay.
Mr. Kraus.
Yes.
Ms. Kildary.
Yes.
Mrs. Dolan.
Absolutely.
Mrs. Cullen.
Yes.
Mrs. Vance Clemens.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 8-1. Congratulations, Dr. Bolton.
I like that they, the one that says one, got it. I taught math while I I like that they put this where you're facing the clock, so I promise that I won't take long. But I do want to thank the board for your support. I have vacillated as I've anticipated this evening between being thrilled for the opportunity and humbled by the responsibility to be your next superintendent. I want to make sure my kids were listening when two of you said that I'm funny. Okay, just who knew? You go there. But I think, Mrs. Phillips, I wanted to thank you. You stole two of the three things that I wanted to talk about tonight. So as we were going, as I studied Pennridge and went through this process with the board, and it was an extensive process that lasted many meetings and lots of conversations, and there were lots of opportunities to talk about real issues and the real things that are going on with the board and with the community and in the school district. And so there was a very honest, and I really do appreciate that in terms of as we went through there. But as I learned about Pennridge, the things that people told me over and over again, because just like you called all the people who know me, I called all the people who know you and said, tell me about Pennridge. What do you know? People who teach here, people who live here. Central Boston's awful close, and so we have a lot that overlaps in terms of our communities. The first thing every one of them said, which Mrs. Phillips said, that so many people live, work, and raise their family here. The sense of community in the Pennridge community is amazing, and it's one that I am really looking forward to becoming a part of and learning and being able to contribute to that in a meaningful way. The second thing that I heard about was lots of conversation around students. One around student wellness. That's the only one you didn't steal from me this time. The second one around student successes and just the critical mission of student learning and just the focus that this district has on students, both from a wellness standpoint and from an academic prowess. I make 3 goals for myself and 3 promises for you tonight, and I would encourage you that as you've had time to have conversations with me, and as we meet 6 months from now, that you give me an update, let me know how I'm doing. First, I promise you to learn this community and this district. I promise to listen to what you say are the strengths of this district, but also to listen for your hopes for this district in terms of things 5 years from now can be better for the kids, for the teachers, for the parents, and the community of Pennridge. And lastly, I commit to work really, really hard to build upon those strengths as well as the traditions of the Pennridge community. I am really excited by this opportunity, and I look forward to get to know all of you and to work with you. Thank you very much. I also went out this weekend and bought 3 Pennridge ties, because I didn't have any, right? I don't have dark green, and so I had to see how I did.
Thank you, Dr. Bolton.
Okay. Follow that back. The next motion that we have is a motion to appoint Dr. Troy Price as an acting superintendent from July 1st, 2018 until August 1st, 2018.
I'll second
Okay, motion moved by Mrs. Cullen, seconded by Mrs. Dolan. Comments or questions from board members?
Actually, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we didn't get any details for this contract or this thing, cost or details of the contract.
In our discussion last week or so, it was my understanding that Dr. Price would serve at the Dr. Radigan's rate for the 30 days he was going to be the acting superintendent. That was our discussion. And it was my intention, once you approve this, because we discussed this last week, to send him a letter acknowledging that.
I just think it should be attached here.
Yes, I want to thank Dr. Price for stepping up to the plate here, volunteering to do this. I certainly appreciate that. And I know this is a job that might be stressful, you never know, even though it's only 30 or 31 days long. But nevertheless, you never know what issue or crisis might come along. But in any case, like Mrs. Yardley, I think the details of this should have been put on tonight. Board members are often very critical of not having the amount of money that's going to be spent, and I realize that in executive session it was discussed, but it seemed to me that it was not really made extremely clear exactly what was going to happen. If it had been here as part of the motion, it would have made it much clearer.
And Ms. Cullen, will you accept a friendly motion to amend, friendly amendment to amend the motion to say that Dr. Price is appointed acting superintendent from July 1, 2018 until August 1, 2018 at Dr. Radigan's rate? Would that be acceptable to you?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other questions or comments?
So what's the rate?
At Dr. Radigan's current per diem rate, as we discussed in executive session.
We weren't told the per diem rate, though, so
Well, Mrs. Yardley, if you wish to vote against it, there's a motion and second on the floor. You may certainly do so.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
I just wanted to comment to thank Dr. Price again for stepping up. I think it will be a good opportunity for you and for us, so I'm looking forward. Thank you.
I would like to just comment. I want to thank you, Dr. Price, for doing this. I am going to comment that I am going to vote against this because we don't have all the details and they weren't provided before the meeting. So it's not a vote against Dr. Price. It's a vote against the lack of information.
Would you like that noted in the minutes, Mrs. Yardley?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1.
Mrs. Banis Clemens, I'm going to abstain because I agree that the numbers should have been here.
Okay,
But I do approve of Dr. Price, as I said, and I appreciate his willingness to serve.
okay, motion carries 7-1-1. Mrs. Collins?
The next motion is a motion to approve Sean Daubert as treasurer for the 2018-2019 school year.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Cullen, seconded by Dr. Yarnell. Questions or comments from board members?
I have a comment. I just want to thank Mr. Dahlberg for all of his work and for serving as the board treasurer and for, putting together the budget and always answering everyone's questions and doing a fine job and for his integrity and honesty in the position as well. Thank you very much for your service.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, and that is the last of the personnel report, and no new date has been scheduled for the next personnel meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Cullen. The next committee report is policy. Mrs. Miller?
Thank you. I have one motion to approve the following policies. Policy number 005, organization, and policy number 302, employment of superintendent, assistant superintendent.
Okay, motion from Mrs. Miller. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kraus. Questions or comments from board members?
I had a question at the committee meeting about what would, in this policy, it says that at a public board meeting occurring at least 90 days prior to the expiration date of the superintendent's, so on and so forth contract. So I wondered if a superintendent's contract that we make between the board and the superintendent takes precedence over the policy, or is it vice versa? I'm not sure that I think so.
The terms of a contract, well, first off, the terms of the school code would take precedent. Terms of the contract would be second, and the policy would be third. It would be in that tautology, shall we say.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
The next meeting has not been scheduled yet. Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the policy, the last policy agenda.
I'll second it, I guess.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Banis Clemens, seconded by Mrs. Cullen. Questions or comments from board members? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Okay, the next committee report is the Upper Bucks County Technical School. Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Mrs. Baines Clemens. The JOC met on April 19th, and there was really nothing new to report from the JOC, as most of the items were covered in the previous month. So next regular JOC meeting will be Thursday this week, May 19th. Oh, 17, I'm sorry, there's a misprint on the agenda here. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Act 48, Mrs. Walters. Oh, sorry. I forgot, I saw you. Technology, Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Mrs. Baines Clemens. The Technology Committee did not meet. The next regular scheduled meeting is June 11, 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Okay, Act 48, Mrs. Walters.
The Act 48 committee did not meet, and I don't believe we have a meeting scheduled. October. We will meet again.
Okay, the next is the Pennridge Area Coordinating Committee, Mrs. Dolan and Mrs. Kildare.
I'll just recap. Silverdale was there, Bedminster, the Pennridge Community Center, and the Bucks County Planning Commission gentleman, Mr. Paul Gordon, was there, reviewing some of the Libertyville Trail as well as possible bike lanes being installed on 313. Some other interesting information was that they will be having the center is going to be partnering with a local car club to move the annual car show from Park City Pennridge High School on July 28th. And that's about it for Activate.
Thank you, Mrs. Kildare.
And the next meeting is going to be May 24th at 7.
Thank you. Old business?
I just wanted to point out that, remind people, I believe people have gotten an email, it's also posted on the district website, that Dr. Bolton will be here next Monday, May 21st, at, I believe it starts at 6. Yeah, I can't find it right here. It starts at 6. But there's also so it starts at 6 and then the forum starts at 6:30. There's also, in that same press release, there's a link to a form where people can submit questions for Dr. Bolton. So I would encourage everyone to submit questions, and Dr. Hoffman from the IU will be leading the forum, and he's going to consolidate the questions. So I encourage people to do that and come next Monday. I also wanted to comment on the textbook. At the curriculum meeting last week, there was public comment about it, and I talked briefly, but for people who weren't there, the book was discussed at the February 5th curriculum meeting, and it was noted that the book wasn't available then, but there wasn't any question about the process or any comment on the process. It was just about the book being available. Then at the board meeting on February 26th, the motion was not made to approve the program proposal because the book still wasn't available and people had requested to look at it. At the March 26th meeting, the book was made available a few days before, and there was a motion made and it was tabled because people wanted more time to look at the book. And again, nothing was said about the process of approving the book or any issue with that. And then at the meeting on, I believe it was April 23rd, at the last board meeting when the motion was made for the book, the comment was made that going forward, it would be good to have a different process. But going forward, and that was the first time that it was mentioned without any previous discussion about that. Always up until that point, it had been, well, we would like to see the book, and then when the book was available and people got to see the book in print and the digital form, then the comment was made about the process.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay. I'll move on to announcements, and thank you, Mrs. Yardley. I was going to announce that in announcements the 21st, so thank you for doing that outside. We'll start outside the auditorium and then move into the auditorium, so outside the auditorium at 6 o'clock, and then we'll move in at 6:30. But please submit those questions for Dr. Bolton, because I'm sure he'll get bored up there if you don't have enough questions for him, so thank you for that. The next regular school board meeting is scheduled for June 18th. An executive session was held on May 7th for the purpose of discussion of the terms and conditions of employment of a number of district employees, as well as labor and arbitration matters. An executive session will follow tonight's meeting for the purpose of discussion of the terms and conditions of employment of a number of district employees, as well as labor and arbitration matters. Okay, we're back to public comment. Questions or comments from guests? Go ahead.
My name is Kathy McCauley. I'm from Hilltown Township. I just wanted to thank both Mrs. Yardley and Mrs. Miller for their dedicated service and the way they represented the Pennridge School Board without political bias, and they always had the best interests of the students at hand. And I'm thrilled that we have a new supervisor. Sorry to see you go. Superintendent. Sorry to see you go. And also, we have a new attorney. So I say next year, we have a new school board. All 5 members need to be replaced. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from guests? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.